Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Crowd Share podcast. These videos normally come out a little bit earlier in the week, but this week I got a little busy and I had a couple things I had to do. Also, Game 7, and also Game 7 of the Diamondbacks and the Phillies was playing Tuesday night, which is when I normally do these videos. Um, and I didn't want to miss any of that, but by the time it ended, it was already like close to midnight, and I wasn't recording then because it'd be too late. So now I'm doing the videos now. Obviously, it's a little bit later, like I said, a little bit later than normal. It might be a little awkward next week as well because World Series is going to be on, and so will the Lions on Monday night, and then Tuesday night is Halloween night where the World Series will also be playing, which is not something I want to miss. Also, I don't want to have the lights on and have to deal with trick or treaters running by all the time, knocking and ringing the doorbell because they see my office light on, or they see the office light on, I should say. Um, so I'm obviously going to do it a little. So I don't know. I'll have to figure out when I'm going to actually do the videos next week. Um, might be at a different time than usual, but we'll figure it out. I'm also being a little bit quieter than usual, as my mom is trying to currently sleep right now. So I am trying not to, be too loud. Obviously, you can still hear me, so I'm sure you guys will be just fine. So I'm trying not to be too loud so that she can actually go to sleep and be able to get a good night's rest. Anyways, let's get into today's video. I'm not gonna bother doing a top 25 review for this week because it's been almost a full week since the last polls came out, and it was the last poll for the AP poll. Really, the only changes that really even mean that much were the fact that USC went even, fell even further after losing to Utah. And other than that, really the only changes were Bama getting back into the top 10, Penn State dropping a little bit after the Ohio State loss, and North Carolina free falling after their ugly loss to Virginia. The only new team is James Madison. Other than really that, there's not really all that much to look at. But yeah, this is going to be the last week of the AP polls. I mean, obviously it'll still be out, but there'll be the playoff committee will start releasing their rankings, and we'll be going off of those obviously once those come out. So we won't be bothering with the AP poll anymore. So Tuesdays will be when we go over the brand new rankings for the week, which will be the college football playoff rankings. I wouldn't expect really any live reactions to them, but I'm sure we'll do some videos after they've been released, and we go over them and whatever the case may be. Anyways, let's get into this picks video, and first let's just go over our shockers of the week. We always do this first to start off the week. And I ended up getting another one last week as I got the Utes over USC. I did pick that one. That got me 7.5. So that's it at 19.5 points for the season. Serbinsky is still searching for his first points of the year. And Sam still sits above us all at 34. So I am 14.5 behind. I am looking to come back with some solid points here, and I have already selected the game. And my shocker for this week is actually going to be Kansas over Oklahoma. Uh, this is a solid Oklahoma team. I have nothing against the Sooners. They're a solid squad. They have a really good team, and they've been very impressive so far this year. But coming off of a bye week after beating Texas and coming home to face UCF, they looked awful. And I mean, you could say, oh, well, it was just hangover from beating Texas, huge win, yada yada yada, just big hangover from that, and they ended up pulling through. They'll go back to normal next week. Well, this is a very good Kansas team. I mean, they're 5-2. Kansas is really stinking good. And this program is very hungry for a program defining win because Kansas football is actually not a joke anymore. They actually have a solid team. Are they, some juggernaut? No. But I don't really know, Oklahoma is 7-0, but really other than Texas, who have they played? And Texas is a really good win, but you know, anyone can win on any given day. This is a very good Kansas team. Oklahoma State is next for the Sooners. I'm sure they'll want to get, Bedlam. They'll want to finish off Bedlam in style. But I think this is a big time. I think this is a very this is an upset waiting to happen. I think this is one that maybe some people would call, but it's a 9-point line. I like the Jayhawks to get an upset here. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people, and Oklahoma gets caught by surprise once again. Serbenski, he's been struggling, as like I said, this year to find shockers for the season. But he's going big. He's gonna once again go big or go home as he's taken the Florida Gators to take down number one in the land, the Georgia Bulldogs. He has the Gators with the upset. Now, Florida is like a near 15 point underdog, so I do understand why he's picking this game. Do I think it'll happen? Probably not. But I think this still should be a very fun game. Um, and then next is Sam's shocker for this week, and his, I believe, is if I'm remembering correctly. I gotta find it. I gotta make sure that yes, okay, I was right. He has NC State over Clemson. Now I think that's a very possible one as well. And I mean, we'll have to see. I do think NC State does have a solid team. Um, well, NC State, I think, has a decent team, I should say. I don't know if they're really that great, but also Clemson has not been very special this year, and the Wolfpack is at home, so definitely a big chance for them in the Textile Bowl. Um, so let's get on to our picks for this week, and I'll do what I kind of have done before, which I'll just start here, and then I'll do kind of like snake style and going like this. So first we have North Carolina going on the road to face the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Georgia Tech is not the greatest team. North Carolina laid their egg last week. They won't lay another one. I got Tar Heels winning this one. If I'm right, it's going to be a clean sweep in favor of UNC. That is the pick for, I think, for Serbenski. It is, and it also is the pick for Sam. So we all have North Carolina. Whoa. Sorry, I have this like really close to my face. So whenever I like breathe, it just comes out like that. Uh, anyways, next is going to be Michigan State going on the road to take on Minnesota. Then the pick for Serbenski, or not for Serbenski, for Sam is going to be Minnesota. As for Serbenski, I'm pretty sure he would probably have Minnesota though too. He does, and I'll take the Gophers too. You know, Michigan State just if it was any other team that wasn't if it wasn't a team like Michigan State that is just in so much turmoil and has so many problems, I would consider taking Michigan State. But their program is in so much turmoil, has just an immense amount of issues, and it's not a good situation in East Lansing. Now, I do think Michigan State will make this close because Minnesota's not a great team, but I still think the Gophers will pull through. Next is going to be Purdue on the road against Nebraska. These are two bad teams, but Purdue, yeah, they're really bad. Nebraska's bad, but they're not as bad as Purdue. So I gotta go with Nebraska in this one. And we have a clean Nebraska sweep because both Serbenski and Sam are both going to be taking Nebraska as well. So next, we're going to have Florida State going on the road, take on Wake Forest. Sam is taking Florida State, and this is probably going to be pretty boring to start off because I'm pretty sure these are all going to be clean sweeps. Um, Florida State is the pick for Sam, also the pick for Serbenski, and also going to be the pick for me. Wake Forest doesn't have Sam Hartman anymore, and really without Sam Hartman, they've been a completely different team. They're just kind of meh. I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll get to 6-6, but they're just not that good. So, give me Florida State. Next, we have Mississippi State going on the road to take on Auburn. Will Rogers, starting quarterback for Mississippi State, could be out for this game. But I don't even know if they'd win even if he was in. Auburn's got to win an SEC game at some point. They are at home for this one, and this is their first opportunity to really get that first win in SEC play. I think they get it done. And at Jordan Hare, they get their first win in the SEC. Pick for Strubensky is actually also going to be Auburn. He has, just like me, the Tigers gained their first SEC dub. And Sam's going to go with Mississippi State, which is certainly fair. I don't blame him for taking Mississippi State. I could see either team winning it, so you never know. Next, we're going to have West Virginia going on the road to take on taking on UCF. Pick for Serbenski is going to be UCF. He has the Golden Knights gain the win at home. That actually is also going to be the pick for Serbenski. He actually also has UCF getting the win. Okay. And then for me, this is going to be really close. But I'm going to, UCF, I think, will still end up pulling through. It's I'm sorry, it happens every time. But UCF is a pretty nasty environment, and they get pretty loud there in Orlando, and they can get pretty excited. So West Virginia does seem to have a actually decent team, strangely enough, as they actually had a nice start to the year. They were actually 4-1, but they've now lost two in a row. They're a decent team, West Virginia, but UCF's just a really tough place to go in and win. The Golden Knights might not have the best team in the world, but I think they'll be able to knock off the Mountaineers. Next is Wyoming going on the road to take on Boise State. Yeah, I'd put in a couple of these games because there's not really many. I didn't have a ton of great, Power Five games to choose from, and how many times am I going to be able to get games like these that are actually all pretty darn good and actually decent matchups? So I'm gonna go with Wyoming though to take out Boise State. The Broncos just have not looked sharp, and I actually have seen Wyoming a couple times, and they actually look like a halfway decent team. The Cowboys, I mean, I know absolutely nothing about Wyoming, but their quarterback's tough. I watched them against Texas Tech. That dude was taking absolute shots, and he was still playing really well. And they've also knocked off Fresno State. They're Fresno's only loss, so they're not chump change. Wyoming's a pretty good team, so I don't really trust Boise State as they have not looked good, and I don't care if it's at the blue field. I still got Wyoming. That's also the pick for, I believe, Swerbensky. Yes, he has Wyoming getting the win on the road in Boise, and then I think that's also Sam's pick. Yep, it is. So we all have the Wyoming Cowboys. Next is Memphis going on the road to take on North Texas. Sam has Memphis. He's got the Tigers going to 6 wins and becoming bowl eligible. We all have Wyoming going bowl eligible too. Serbenski's going to take Memphis, and so am I. Uh, Really for one reason alone. North Texas lost to Cal 58-21. I know that Cal's a lot better than they were in the past few years. 58-21. 58-21 at home. Yeah, I just want people to recognize that. That is why I'm going to go with Memphis. Anyways, next we have UNLV going on the road to take on Fresno State. I'm not enthralled at all by UNLV. I don't really know how this team is 6-1. Strangely enough, their one loss actually comes against Michigan. They're their only loss during the entire season. If it wasn't for us, they would be undefeated. Go figure. But I'm not sold that they're a real 6-1 team. I mean, I've looked at the games that they played, and they've barely won all of them, and all of them suck. So they're a fluke in my opinion. They haven't beaten anybody yet. Fresno State actually has some quality wins on their resume, and they're always a solid team. So I'll go with Fresno at home. That is also going to be the pick for Serbenski. He has Fresno State winning at home, knocking off the UNLV, I believe, Rebels, if I'm not mistaken. I really don't know what it is. I think it's Rebels. And that's also the same pick for not Serbenski, Sam. He's got Fresno State taking out UNLV and getting them their second loss of the year. Next is Clemson going on the road to take on NC State. Sam's shocker was NC State, and Sam is sticking with his shocker. He has NC State winning at home, knocking off Clemson. Serbenski is going to go with Clemson. He has the Tigers getting the win at home and knocking off the Wolfpack. I personally also have Clemson. This is obviously a season that has not gone right for the Tigers. They've obviously struggled this year, and this probably is not how they wanted their season to go. But NC State, this is not the team that's going to put them to 500. I think Clemson still will end up getting the win and knocking off NC State. Is Clemson the greatest team? Not really, but NC State's not very good either. Next, we have Colorado going on the road to take on UCLA. I feel like this is a really intriguing and underrated matchup here. Because as much as Colorado's defense is really bad, UCLA does not really have that sharp of an offense, and their defense is really good. This should be a really fun game. I'm expecting an interesting matchup. Uh, of course, this is the 7:30 ABC game. I'm going to be watching Ohio State, Wisconsin because that means more to my conference. Um, but UCLA. It should be a fun game for sure. But I got Bruins with the win. I think they come up on top. Colorado just. It's been a great turnaround at Colorado. It's really been very impressive what Dion's been able to do in Boulder, but they're still not great. I mean, their defense is an absolute joke, and their offensive line has zero ability to protect, Shedeur Sanders. And Sanders does look good. I mean, Shedeur looks actually like a really good quarterback, but they have absolutely zero offensive line. He's running for his life constantly. And also, they blew a 29-0 lead to Stanford. So, Colorado. I like them. It's been a dramatic turnaround. They honestly have shocked the world with how good they've been, and the fact that they even have 4 wins at this point. So very impressive. But still, give me UCLA. And then the picks for the rest of us, Serbinsky. I'm pretty sure that this is just going to be a UCLA sweep because I don't think anyone really trusts Colorado's defense at all. But Serbinsky and Sam both, yes, they have UCLA. Okay. Next, we have USC going on the road to take on Cal. Uh, they both have USC. I figured as much. And so do I. USC has obviously had two clunkers of games back to back. The Notre Dame game, they absolutely collapsed, of which I actually saw that coming because they did not look good for several weeks in a row. I'm like, somebody's going to beat them. Notre Dame is going to be the one to do it. I did not expect them to get absolutely demolished. But USC, um, you know, really needs to. But USC, they got absolutely demolished by Notre Dame, and then they took a crushing or they took a soul crusher at home against Utah, losing to them again. And so now they go on the road to take on Cal. I think the Trojans are going to play mad because they're still in the race for the Pac-12 championship, as strange as that may seem, even at 6-2, because they're only a one-loss Pac-12 team. Because Notre Dame's a non-conference loss, so as much as they've been bad lately, they're also still in the Pac-12 title picture. So I think they play mad. Caleb Williams wants to prove to everybody why he is going to be the number one pick in the draft. They absolutely smack around Cal all day, and USC and Caleb Williams put up a pretty solid number of points. Now also the opposite could happen. They do absolutely nothing, but I'm counting on Caleb Williams and USC to come back and, like I said, play mad, play irritated, pissed off. Next, we have BYU going on the road to face Texas. No Quinn Ewers. I don't really think it's going to matter for the BYU game. Longhorns still get the win. BYU does look like a decent team, and I think it'll be close, especially with no Quinn Ewers. But it's Texas. If it was at BYU, I might be considering taking BYU. But at Texas, on the road in Austin, I don't really think BYU can do that one. That's a bit much of an ask. Uh, Texas is also going to be the pick for Serbinsky and for Sam. They both have the Longhorns as well. Next is Oregon State going on the road to take on Arizona. Arizona has looked actually pretty good so far this year. They are 4-3, but their record I don't think really shows how actually good that they've been this season. But Sam's pick for this game is going to be Oregon State. For Serbinsky, he has Arizona. All right, I like it. He has the Wildcats getting the upset against the Oregon State Beavers. I know that he's actually going to be at that game, so if you would like to turn on that game, if you're on the East Coast like me, though, you might be up a little late at night because it is at 10:30 ESPN. But if you want to maybe take a look and see if you'll see Sam somewhere in the stands in Tucson, yeah, tune in 10:30 ESPN Eastern Time. Hopefully you're not on the East like me, and you'd probably have to stay up till like 2 in the morning watching that game. But I'm going with Oregon State. Oregon State actually is a pretty decent team. I thought that they would be pretty good. I figured that Oregon State would end up being a solid team, but I have been really impressed with how good they've been. This is a really good start to the year. They still have to play Washington, and they still do have to play Oregon. They still have to play both of them. But Oregon State has been very good. And they are a one-loss team because of the Washington State loss, which really right now is hurting them. But they have a talented squad, and they are very good right now, and they're in a pretty solid position. Because the Pac-12 is very tightly contested. You got USC, you got Oregon State, you have Oregon, you have Utah, which are about to face each other this week, and is the last game on here, by the way. Spoiler alert, that's game of the week. But you got all these teams in the Pac-12, all these just really, really talented squads, and all of them are still in the race for a Pac-12 title. Like I said, Washington's undefeated, so obviously they haven't even lost a game yet. But Oregon State, Oregon, USC, Utah, all those teams are one-loss teams, and all of them are still in the race for the Pac-12 title. I mean, Utah and or I'm sorry, not Utah, UCLA and Arizona, they both have 2 losses. Obviously, those are a bit far fetched, but they're kind of still in it too. So it's very tight in the Pac-12, and this is a big game for Oregon State. But I think, and Arizona's going to fight hard, and Arizona's a scrappy team. But I think the Beavers still will pull out in a very close one and get the win on the road in a huge victory at Arizona. Next, we have Georgia at Florida. This is going to be really fun, especially since Georgia. I mean, both of these teams are coming off byes, so neither one of them are going to. Neither one of them have played in the past week. They both have had 2 weeks to prepare. But one problem here in this game is for Georgia, they don't have Brock Bowers. He's possibly out for the majority of the rest of the year, which is a huge loss for them because that is a enormous part of their offense. So I really don't know who they're going to get to replace him. They do have some solid receivers, but Brock Bowers, I mean, kind of like Michigan, because their offense is actually kind of similar to ours, where we love our tight ends. We love Colston Loveland. We love, we use AJ Barner a decent amount. And before we had those guys, we loved our tight ends. Then we gave those guys a ton of attention. So losing any one of those guys for Michigan would be huge because we love our tight ends. And if we lost one of those guys, you'd be down to like one tight end. That's tough. And for Georgia, Brock Bowers is a NFL talent, obviously. So losing him is really harsh. I think this is going to be a very fun game, especially with how heated of a rivalry it is. It's going to be a great game, very fun to see, but in the end, it's going to be Georgia. They're number one team in the land for a reason. They are a very talented team. They're a very deep team. Florida's pretty good. They're not going to have enough to win this one. I think Georgia's still going to sneak out in Jacksonville and get a very big and close win over the Gators. Serbenski did pick this as his shocker, but he is going just for the points, not for his actual pick, because he is taking Georgia. And Sam is also taking Georgia. So we have a Bulldog sweep. Next, we have Ohio State going on the road to take on Wisconsin. Ohio State is going to be the pick for Sam. He's got the Buckeyes getting the win in Camp Randall. And I believe that's going to be the same pick for Serbenski, which, yes, it is. So he also has Ohio State, and of course, so do I. Ohio State, or I'm sorry, Wisconsin, um, you know, I don't know how they're 5-2 really, because they looked utterly pitiful against Illinois. And they are missing their starting quarterback. Tanner Mordecai is out, so it's like Braden Locke or something, some like Mississippi State transfer. He doesn't look good. Obviously, Braylon Allen is the big part of this Wisconsin offense, but even so, Ohio State's too good a team. Do I think they're a great team necessarily? No, but Wisconsin is not good enough to beat them. Yeah, that's what it really boils down to. Also, Ohio State just took down Penn State, in a big game last week as the Nittany Lion offense has completely ground to a standstill. And Ohio State, Wisconsin isn't they're not a terrible team, but they're not nearly good enough to beat Ohio State. So as I hate to say it, obviously, as I am all for the Buckeyes taking an L and getting upset, but Ohio State's gonna win that one. I would be shocked if Wisconsin took it. Next, we have Oklahoma going on the road to take on Kansas. I took Kansas as my shocker of the week, and I'm gonna stick to it. I'm taking Kansas. Look, and I said this and I picked them as my shocker. Kansas is searching for a program-defining win. Kansas football is actually coming back to life. Kansas has looked very good, and the Jayhawks are going to be looking for that, defining win, that big win that jump starts the team and puts them on the map. I mean, last year was the first year that this team really ever showed any life in like 20 years. I mean, because their football program has been dead for quite some time. And they finally saw a little bit of a spark last year when they started off the year looking really good. And I think they started off 5-0 and then lost to TCU and never really recovered from that as they went, I think, 1-6 in their last 7 games. Well, I guess if you count the bowl game, then 1-7. Uh, of course, even making a bowl game at that point was an accomplishment for Kansas. But this year, their team actually looks legitimately good. I mean, they're 5-2 so far this season. They took a loss to Oklahoma State 2 weeks ago, as they have now had a bye. They've had time to rest up. Jalen Daniels does not look like he's going to play this game, so he's going to be out again with a nagging back injury that he's been dealing with for a while. So it's going to be Jason Bean, who's probably going to play for Kansas again. But Jason Bean looks really good. He has played outstanding football for Kansas and just continues to look like a very, very very viable QB. I mean, the dude continues to show out for Kansas, and if he continues to do that, I mean, Kansas has a decent chance. Oklahoma has a tough defense. And Oklahoma's not an easy team, obviously, but Kansas has got some sneaky talent, and I think Oklahoma they look very vulnerable against UCF, which is a team that Kansas absolutely obliterated. And that's not really why I'm saying that Kansas will win. I just think Kansas has got home field. Like I said, this team is hungry. This team is looking for that, like I said, program-defining win. That win that will send this program into a frenzy and puts them on the map. I think this is the one. This is their opportunity. I say they take it and they turn some heads and they shock some people and they take down OU. And then Srbensky is taking Oklahoma, and so is Sam. So obviously, I'm the only one who's really taking OU, and I'm not really that surprised by that. I'm going a little bold with the Kansas pick. Next is going to be Tennessee going on the road to take on Kentucky. Uh, Sam and I'm pretty sure Srbensky, yes, they are both taking Tennessee. Um, I'm actually going to take Kentucky though. Tennessee just this team is decent. I mean, they're not a bad team. I get that, but Kentucky is not a bad team either. They're 5-2, just like Tennessee. The volunteer quarterback. I mean, this isn't just because I hate Joe Milton, which I do, because I mean, well, you look at his tenure at Michigan. Is it really that hard to figure out? But Tennessee, they're an okay overall team, but they're just nothing about them really stands out. And Kentucky has got some solid playmakers. They got home field advantage. You know, obviously Kentucky got eradicated pretty much by Georgia But let's be real, pretty much everybody gets eradicated by Georgia. So, and then they also lost to Missouri, but also Missouri's a good team. So, this is their chance. They get a home game. Tennessee, just to me, is not really that impressive. Uh, I thought they would certainly win at Bama, and they weren't even close. I mean, they had a lead, and they absolutely threw it away. Um, I think Kentucky is going to get the win here, and the Wildcats get a solid win. They get to 6-2, and they're the first to get bowl eligible. Next is the Duke Blue Devils going on the road to take on the Louisville Cardinals. I am not sold by Louisville whatsoever. Um, the Louisville, I mean, I feel like Louisville is just another North Carolina team. I mean, you see North Carolina. I mean, North Carolina last year they did the same thing, or was it 2 years ago? Oh, but even the past few years, really. North Carolina, like the past few years, it seems at just some random points to look like one of the better teams in the country, plays incredibly well, and absolutely shows out. And then in like the bigger stages, or against just a really bad team, just completely disappears and looks awful. And Louisville, they did beat Notre Dame, but then you see them play Pitt, and then they lose a Pitt. Like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And Duke is a very the thing I like about this Duke team, as I am picking the Blue Devils to win this one, Duke is a very scrappy team. And when you get a football team like Duke and what Mike Elko has infused into that program, he's infused toughness into that team. A lot of toughness. And that really bodes well when you're trying to build up a football team. You want guys who are tough, who are physical, and Duke is physical. Duke isn't gonna let Louisville bring the you know Duke isn't gonna let Louisville just bring it to them. They're gonna Duke is gonna bring it to Louisville. If you guys can understand what I'm trying to say. Um, Duke is a tough team. They're a scrappy team. They got a scrappy quarterback and Riley Leonard. He isn't really a great thrower, but the man can run, and he can run for days. I think Duke gets the win on the road, and they take down the Louisville Cardinals, and they get a big road win. I like this Duke team. They're tough, and they're not going to back down from a fight. And they're not going to quit either. So give me Duke. Louisville's going to be the pick for Serbinsky, though, and it's also the pick for Sam. Also, another reason why I'm taking Duke. I think Louisville's just fluky. I'm not. I'm not a Duke believer. I'm not, or not Duke. I'm not a Louisville believer right now. And then now we have game of the week where we have the Oregon Ducks going on the road to take on the Utah Utes. So we'll start with Sam for game of the week, who has the Oregon Ducks gain the win in Salt Lake City and gain a huge road win and staying in the CFP and Pac-12 race. That is also going to be the pick for Serbinsky. And so he has Oregon staying in the race as well. As for me, Utah's had the upper hand at home for the past few years. This is a very tough defensive team with an offense that has been surging as of late. As for Oregon, solid team. Got a nice win last week against Washington State. Whoever loses this game not only is pretty much eliminated from CFP contention, but they're also going to be eliminated from the pretty much Pac-12 title picture, or likely eliminated, I guess you could say, depending on how many losses other teams end up taking. Um, and so I have Utah. Every time, Utah has been very kind to me. If I was a betting man and I was betting on Utah, I would be rich right now. Because I pretty much every time that I have picked a Utah game, I have yet to lose. I think every time I've picked a Utah game, I've won every time. I picked them to beat USC, they did. I picked Oregon State to beat Utah, they did. I picked Utah to beat Florida, they did. Every time that I have picked Utah, I have won every single time. So I am very much. I'm going with this Utah team has treated me well, and and I think they're gonna treat me well again. Now, this is not me saying go bet on Utah, because don't, because that would it's not. Trust me, it won't work. Betting is not the answer. Let me just tell you that. Anyway, um, but Utah's been good to me this year. I have yet to be wrong on them. Watch them lose now because I'm saying all this. But I think Utah gets the win. They're a tough defense. Oregon is not necessarily a team that plays very well in road environments, and Utah they've been outstanding at home and recently. And also no Cam Rising, but Utah's looked fine even without him. So I think the Utes will be just fine even without Cam Rising. I think they still get the win. That's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. And yeah, that's it for me. So we'll see you in the next video. And until then, adios, everyone.